Hello, I invite you to stay and join me in the garden, even just for a few minutes to listen to the birds. In today's video, I am going to share the story of how I almost quit Vibrant Systems and why I kept going. And this story is especially powerful for people who have a dream, have a goal, have a vision, and they might be at that stage where it feels so overwhelming that they're ready to turn back, or they're ready to quit, to throw it away. Because I was there. Because the skill of choosing to keep going, choosing to see this hardship and weight and discomfort and distress as an opportunity for growth instead of a reason to quit is a skill that will serve you far beyond even this one singular goal. Vibrant Systems is a business I have been building for 2 years. And while there have been some amazing opportunities that this business has brought me that I am incredibly grateful for, in a lot of ways, for those looking at my business, by standards of income or regular work, it's a failing business. I'll be honest about that. You can look at my followers on YouTube or Instagram, and they're not high numbers. For someone who's been doing this for 2 years, I have faced a lot of discouragement because of those numbers. And I want to be honest about that, because this isn't coming from a place where I already have 1,000 followers and you can too if you do it like I did it. I don't want to do that. And I also know, and I want to acknowledge, that these are real measures that we use to indicate success. And for the people watching this video, I'm not trying to lie and pretend that I'm doing better than I am in those physical, material, numerical ways. I am painfully aware of how those elements of my business exist in the world. As I said, I have been working on Vibrant Systems for 2 years, as of March. And the way I got into this work is my boss 2 years ago, as I was nearing the end of my contract with that work, said to me, looked me in the eye, actually it might have been over text, could have been on video call, we worked remotely, but she turned to me and she said, you have what it takes to become a consultant, become a business owner. And because I did not have a better idea of what to do next, I decided to start my own business. And I was talking to a friend earlier this week about that initial process of, okay, what am I going to call it? What colors am I going to choose? Things like that. And that was the very first step. And honestly, I can look back, the name I chose, the colors I chose, those I'm happy with. I think there's been a few times that I've waffled on the colors a little bit, but I was very pleased with that original choice of Vibrant Systems as a name, of purple and yellow as colors. I'm very pleased with that. That was the easy part, of course. Now, for some background, if you're just coming across this video, the reason I went into consulting work is I had been working in community-based climate adaptation for 2 years at that point. And I got into that work through public health, which I got into public health through anthropology and psychology. So I have a very broad systems perspective of the world we live in, as well as a very individually focused understanding of how the mind works, what it takes to reach goals. In my own experience, I developed a lot of awareness of the actual steps it takes to navigate mental illness, to choose to build a life that actually supports me in my neurodivergency, rather than trying to appeal to the validations of others by the standards that other people have set. This is just to bring into play how I decided to focus Vibrant Systems at that start. I knew then that I wanted to work in communities, and I wanted to be able to bring this systems level awareness about communities and about the power they have to operate in those systems. Because in my experience with climate adaptation, I was very much exposed to people in municipalities who felt like they didn't actually have power to make a difference in these big challenges and issues we are facing collectively. And I wanted to be someone who could help open the door to, actually, we can make a difference. And I say this because that element of Vibrant Systems has not changed. It has held true through these 2 years. How it's looked, how I sought to do that work, the different modalities or way of talking that I use to navigate this work, that all has changed time and time and time and time again. Part of the reason I'm making this video is I truly do feel like my family, my friends, do not know what I do not know what Vibrant Systems seeks to do. And so alongside talking about my journey as a business owner and why I've stayed committed to it, even when it hasn't been, financially lucrative, is to provide this clarity and awareness and these words so that, if my aunt is talking to her friend and they ask, oh, what's your niece doing? I don't know if they ask that. They can share with greater clarity what I'm doing. Now, before I get into that clarity, I want to talk about how it was developed, because it was not an easy path. I also hold no illusions that it will start to be an easy path after posting this video. When you're a business owner, or when you're pursuing a vision or a dream or a goal that others around you have not done, they do not know. They just don't know what it takes to navigate building a business. And like I said, my background was anthropology and psychology and public health. I was not a business major. I am good at accounting, but I did not have accounting experience. I had no idea how to market myself or generate sales leads or any of these tangible, hard skills that are necessary for running a business. I had this idea that felt very, very true and very, very aligned to me. At the same time, I really struggled to put that idea into words because it felt so big and so broad that I felt I could never do it justice. That was me 2 years ago, figuring out what the heck this was going to look like. And at the start of those 2 years, I was very inspired. I was like, wow, within a year, I'm going to have so many clients. I'm going to be doing amazing. I'm going to be making a real impact in the world. And that didn't happen. And yes, there were some external life, family influences that did slow me down. But I'm not going to say that's why it didn't happen. It didn't happen because I didn't have these words, this clarity to express what Vibrant Systems was about. I had to develop it. And to develop that clarity, that discernment, the discipline needed, the structures to support vibrant systems, to learn how to regulate my nervous system so I can be comfortable expanding into new territories or into new clients or new kinds of work, to truly try all these different things and figure out what it meant to work authentically in vibrant systems. That was all trial and error. And that looked like launching a product one week and deciding to throw that product out the next. That looked like designing my website, redesigning my website, and then redesigning it again several times within 1 year. That looked like going and starting an email campaign for one kind of client, and then after sending out 15 emails, realizing this isn't messaging, this isn't a vision or a product that I really want to sell. And so while I can say that core goal of vibrant systems, to work in systems, to work in communities, has stayed true, how I've moved towards that goal has changed more times than I can count. And I came into this work as someone who was not comfortable with change. I was someone who was really, really craving stability and security and something easy. And I was choosing to do this work that was anything but easy, that was putting me through the ringer, literally week after week after week. I guess I can say I've been doing this for over 100 weeks now, right? And I don't think any single one of those weeks did not have a moment that felt like the lowest low, and also equally in a moment that felt like the highest high, because once I sat with that, let me find the words for this, once I sat with that confusion and despair and self-doubt, once I sat with that and let it exist in my body and learned to love myself and regulate myself through it, I was met with what felt like doors opening with golden light of, oh, this is it. This is the next step. I don't have to give up. This is what I've got to do. And then the cycle would repeat, because whatever I was doing at that time wasn't where I was meant to stop. And I would be faced again with that self-doubt, that deep core level, should I give up? And yet, sitting with it and letting myself feel that way and looking and asking for help always brought that level of clarity, that level of inspiration, that last little bit of motivation to keep going. So I started this video by saying this is the story of how I almost quit Vibrant Systems and why I chose to keep going, is the fact that this story was continuous. It was never ending. I'm not going to be proud and say I'm not going to go through this cycle again, because I'm sure I will. And to sit with this, again, if you're someone who's on your own path, in your own journey of generating some sort of change in your life, your business, the world, if you're doing this kind of work, how do you move through that discomfort? How do you move through that pain or self-doubt or feeling of worthlessness? And for the record, every single one of us is worthy. So it's not that you aren't worthy, it's that you feel a lack of worth. How do you sit through that? For myself, honestly, the pathway through that was to let myself feel it, honestly, in my body, without telling myself stories that affirmed that belief. And once I was able to sit and integrate the feelings and calm myself through the feelings, and calming myself ranged from meditating to eating a tub of ice cream to doing yoga to walking outside. There are so many tools available to us for this regulation. We just need to bring our presence and awareness with it. Once I was able to do that, I realized, okay, those feelings were a lot. They were heavy. They were overwhelming. They felt like a flood. But I'm through it, and I can see the clouds parting. I can see the clarity. I can see what the next step looks like for me. And if you're someone who's on this journey too, this is what I want to offer you to support you in this time, in this doubt, because I trust that, like me, your vision exists for a reason. Now, with this entire journey of vibrant systems evolving, it's been hard because I haven't always been forthcoming about the kind of growth I was going through in this process. And for my family and friends who were, supportive of this process, who want me to succeed, I fully understand that they've been watching and seeing me spin my wheels, and they've probably been doubting too whether or not I'm actually doing something that's worth it. I don't blame them for this, because like I said, I've had those doubts too, and I have the inside scoop on what's going on. But doubly so, they've had this outside perspective, and they haven't seen this internal process of growth that's been necessary. Because part of the reason it's been necessary is I had to develop this resilience and capacity for change. I had to develop this ability to sit with discomfort and hold space for it, not just in myself, but for others too. And the reason why is simple. Because this is what Vibrant Systems is meant to do. Now, if you are watching this, if you are one of those family members or friends who has been kind of looking for some sort of clarity as to what Vibrant Systems does, this is it. Vibrant Systems is... I did write this down, but I want to make sure I'm bringing integrity to the words that I share here. Vibrant Systems is people-first change management. That's the fun buzzword that I'm going to adopt when I talk about my business. Change management. What is change management? Change management is the ability or the process of helping a client, an organization, a person, a community move through the icky discomfort and distress and uncertainty that comes with implementing a change. So that's very simply what change management is. Now, I do want to really shout out Adrienne Maree Brown and her Adrienne Maree Brown. I'll put this link below for her book, Emergent Strategy, because she gave me a term that I immediately fell in love with, and that is right relationship with change. And it acknowledges the fact that the world we live in is never going to stop changing. We're constantly going to be faced with new challenges and new developments and new technology and new cultural trends, and change is not going away. Right relationship with change means that we show up with integrity with that change. We don't try and deny it. We don't try and pretend it's not happening or cling to what was. We show up and we learn what relationship we have with that change that is true to us. I remember when I was a little girl, I knew at a very young age I wanted to save the world. And my parents, rightfully so, told me that, that's a big ask. Let's maybe, don't not aim for that, but aim a little lower. And so with vibrant systems, with this people first change management, it is I'm going to change the world, but I know I need help. And I know I need partnerships, and I know I need to find people who want to do this same kind of work with me. Also, very often we hear people say things like, oh, this is just the way things have always been, or oh, it can't change, or oh, we don't actually have that much power to generate change. And I understand the desire to say things like that, because change is scary, change is uncertain. I have 2 years of intimate personal experience with how uncertain and scary and uncomfortable change is. But the reality is change is happening right now. The systems we are living in, even since I started my business, have changed so much. And those systems, right now, we're seeing a lot of cracks show up in them. And we're seeing a pathway that those systems want to take us down. So when I say vibrant systems is people first change management, that's the fun buzzword for the, client pitches. But what does that actually mean? What is vibrant systems doing to help people, help communities navigate these changing systems in a way that is good and values aligned and vision based? Vibrant systems still operates on this systems level. So something like our food system, for example, is incredibly complex, and we rarely see how complex it is. We have the people who grow the food, the people who harvest the food, the people who ship the food, the people who process the food, the people who package the food, the people who stock the food in our grocery stores, the people who buy the food and then who cook the food, who eat the food. And in some cases, those people can all be the same person. In a lot of other cases, they're entirely different people. And we also have to consider the people who dispose of the food waste and where that food waste is going, who's responsible for decomposing it or putting it in a landfill. And that's just one kind of system. Every system we have, from food to healthcare to our politics to our niche community systems to our nonprofit infrastructure, all of that overlaps with one another and interacts with one another. The world is exceedingly complex. And so vibrant systems is a complex business because it is meeting these systems in their complexity. It is meeting each person in their complexity. When I talk about change management from this perspective, from this awareness of the complexity of connections that we are living within, it opens up a really powerful opportunity, not just to a community or a municipality, but also to every single person who has a vision, who has a goal, who wants to generate some sort of impact or change in the world. Because every single one of these connections that exists is also an opportunity to make a choice to show up more mindfully in that connection, a choice to divest from one kind of relationship and pour into another, a choice to learn to do some of that work ourselves. In the case of a food system, maybe you want to learn to garden. That work is meaningful. Even if you cannot grow enough food to feed your whole family for a whole year, learning the process of gardening or the process of preserving food is meaningful. People first change management is really focused on this fact that we do have the power and agency to make a change if we want to, as well as, the wind is really picking up right now. Ever heard the term winds of change? Not only do we have the power and option to make a change, but people first change management integrates an awareness of what it takes to go through that discomfort, to move through that change in a way that helps us feel grounded and safe in ourselves and clear in our vision. And vibrant systems can do that work. because the past 2 years with Vibrant Systems has been me learning to do that work in real time, consistently, week after week after week after week. So in a lot of ways, yes, Vibrant Systems can look like it hasn't really changed that much, but it's also been because I've been doing the work to become the person who can make it happen. Now, the next question is not only what work does Vibrant Systems do, but how do I help do that work? What tools or skill set do I actually bring to this conversation about change and choice that sets Vibrant Systems apart from the myriad of other change management consultants that exist out there? I think a really big part of this is I do want to focus on individuals just as much as I want to focus on systems. So yes, I would love to work with an organization that wants to make a change to be more environmentally friendly in a meaningful way. And for that organization, I have skill sets. I have the research skills, the evaluation skills, the communication, presentation skills to bring this energy into that place to make their work and impact meaningful. At the same time, if there's just, a single person running a business like I am, or someone who has a vision like I did, and they want to bring it into being, and they need to make changes in their life to do that, I also want to work with them and help them clarify their vision and capacity to be in right relationship with change. And this can look like engaging with my content that I create, my materials like these YouTube videos, or on social media, my articles that I that I post on my website, my newsletter that I send out each month. That can be a big part of it. And if you're just starting, or if you've just come across my work, and if you want to kind of explore how it helps you, I invite you, sign up for that newsletter. It comes out once a month. It gives you an insight into the articles and activities and pathways I've been walking that month so that you can be a part of that journey with me. I also offer a free community gathering space called A Practice in Being, because one of the greatest skills I have developed in this process is learning to sit with myself when I am in a really uncomfortable place, whether that is grief or anger or sadness or frustration or hopelessness. I have learned to not abandon myself in those moments. And as we move through change and growth, A Practice in Being helps us all build the capacity to connect with one another in those times too, in a way that's not defensive, but that is grounded and willing to find that clarity through the discomfort. And that is free to anyone. It's responsive to the times that people can attend. So again, I'll leave the link below. I would love to invite you to join me in that if you're called. Now, what can you do to support Vibrant Systems if you want to work with me? If you're hearing this people first change management, if you're excited by this idea of systems level approaches to change, what does that actually look like? And that is where my community mentorship service comes into play. Community mentorship, first off, community, broad word. Basically, it's anyone who wants to either build a community or strengthen connections between people in an environment. That can be a business, that can be an actual community, that can be even just in your personal life, developing some sort of framework around connection. And this is a process where I literally walk with you through this visioning, through this, okay, how do we develop the capacity for sitting with discomfort? Through this, how do we communicate what our vision is and find the right people? And through this, okay, now what are the material, physical actions we need to go through to follow through on this? Now, I will be having video courses soon. They're not available yet because I'm doing some deep work to make sure those are being shared with integrity. But if you are interested in that, or I have 2 books that I'm hoping will come out this year too, if you're interested in that, please subscribe so that you don't miss when those are launched. I really, really appreciate every single person who has taken their time to sit through this video, sit with me in this video. And if you're someone that I know personally and you have taken the time to watch this video and understand what exactly Vibrant Systems is doing, again, I want to express so much gratitude for your presence. And if you have questions, if you want to talk about it, if you have an idea about maybe where it can go or someone who could benefit from my work, feel free to either share it with them, but also feel free to reach out to me because I would love to hear from you. My name is Danielle Hauk. Vibrant Systems is my business, and my mission is to help people deepen their connections to self, to others, and to the environment. That part has never changed, even when so much else has. And so if you're interested in people first management, or change management, if you're interested in people first change management, I'll leave my contact information in the show notes below. I would love to hear from you. Let's make your story a vibrant one.